This is the silver chart. We are climbing progressive. Oh, there's Kara. It's your computer just feeding back there. I'll just mute you for the time being. Unmute if you want to chat, though, if you got questions. It's just the feedback. That's all. So silver, yeah. Let's move on to the 4-hour chart so we can see a little bit more detail here over the past week.
Ooh.
We're actually no longer in those lower registers. It seems like right here we actually had hit that support. That low was on July 16th, and we haven't been that low since. And now what we actually had occur was a reversal. So we have this trend line here, and then we have this shelf basically right there. We dipped underneath, found that old zone from back way before last year, the top end of those highs, and we've been taking off ever since. Yeah, Zoa, go ahead.
Your screen froze just for a moment for me. So which one is the shelf?
There's this line here.
Okay,
this was
white line. Okay.
Yeah, this one here, that is at 56. Oh, can't see that. 56.53. And that is where it seems to have found support. Now, again, this is good news because, this is since that low right there, we are up 18%. However, we have a trend line coming up. So it'll be interesting to see how much resistance that trend line provides. If there's not much resistance, we are probably headed back up to all-time highs. If there is resistance, we'll probably see a pullback and find support on the top side where there was resistance in the past. So this line here will likely show some support. Gold, in that same period of time, has actually seen more growth. I don't know if it's by percentage, but certainly by volatility. ATR is rising a lot faster than it is with silver, which is another good sign for the precious metals. This is probably in conjunction, what we're noticing, this increase that we've been seeing is in conjunction with a report that came out that the Federal Reserve is going to be increasing interest rates. Whenever that happens, it's a sign of weakness, a sign of weakness on the dollar. As a result, people start gravitating towards metals. Now, that's just based off of historic precedent. Okay, there are probably other factors as well, but I don't keep track of the news like I used to. Gold silver ratio has actually come down. We are breaking out of that trend. Testing this 66, 67 ounces per ounce of gold.
I have another question.
Yeah.
When you say we've gone up, I think you said 18%. Can we just revisit real quickly how is that from the low?
Yeah,
Is
from
that,
the
like if I wanted to be able to say what you're saying, how would I figure that out?
well, this low here, that's the low, the lowest it's been since we broke out of that zone back in November 2025. So almost a year it took for us to come back down, and then in this last, and this little ruler thing that I have here, it also shows me the number of days. And so it actually went up, in total, from the low to the high, it went up 21% across 25 days.
But what is that 21%? Is it based on is that 21% of what the low was?
Yes. Starting
Okay.
point. Yeah.
Okay. So it's not at all based on the whole price of it's based on the low. Like it's not based on that it's oh, it doesn't even make sense what I said. Never mind.
No, it's all good. This is
It's
good
not
to
a
talk it out.
percentage. It's a rate of change from the low.
Correct. Yeah. And across a specific amount of time as well.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Because if we took it from one of these higher points, it's actually gone down. Even though it's up right now, it's gone down some percentage from that last high.
Yep. One difference that we can notice between silver and gold, though, you can see here, this line that follows along here, I keep this line up on the charts all the time because this is the ATR, or average true range. Meaning, on average, how big are the bars? Back here, we had a lot of volatility. So the ATR was way up here. Now the ATR is very, very low and it's petering out, even though we've been seeing.
I didn't see what you're. So it's that really faint. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me brighten it up here. I'll brighten it up because it is
I thought
pretty
you were pointing
faint.
to something else.
Let me brighten it. There.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's more visible. So this line here, that's the ATR, average true range. And it's basically been petering out. Even though we've seen an increase in price, the range of each day has not really moved at all. However, with gold, we're actually seeing a change of rate. So this volatility here is a good sign. That means that there's some substance to this movement. With silver, the substance is a little weaker because we're not seeing the same volatility day on day, right? Here, the bars are getting larger.
And why is the volatility such a good sign?
It just means that there's more meat to the movement. There's more to support the movement, more volume.
Mm-hmm. But it's not just volume, right? It's like that's measuring the range, like between the low and the high of the day. Or is it strictly?
Yep,
volume?
that's right. Low and the high. It is measuring the volatility of the price action
Okay.
per bar. If we go to the daily chart, we can see it's not really moving up too much here on gold, and that's only because we're seeing it in comparison to the volatility that we had back in February.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But if we look at it from that smaller time frame, this shows a little bit more volatility rising, whereas silver on the same time frame, it's really just staying put.
Mm-hmm.
Over in the oil markets, rising oil prices. Remember how Trump said that it was like a year ago, I think he said, that they managed to make sure that there was no more nuclear installations in Iran, but apparently now Iran still has nukes, and so we need to suppress them. I don't know how he can keep track of all the lies. I don't think he actually does.
Clearly he doesn't, yeah.
No, because exactly. There's no way he can keep track of it.
I don't think I don't think that's part of his.
That's not part of his job.
No,
his job is to lie, not to keep track of them.
His job is to provide the lies, to spew them. Yeah. As is many. He's not alone in that.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, the Dow Jones Average Industrial Index is on the rise. That high that we experienced on August 5th. That high, we're simply coming back, probably to test this trend line one more time. Yeah, and this is funny. Like, I just got a notification from Unusual Whales, which is a subscription that I have on X. Trump says Iran does agree to deal privately, but is refusing publicly. We got a deal going on, don't worry, but it's deals. Or banker's bar. Banker's candle is the more common term because most people use candles like these. We use bars. So whenever we see this kind of thing, these are market makers who are creating these movements, these liquidity jumps. They are not to be considered as part of the trend. And as you can see, it really just came back to market structure. These are like glitches in the matrix. These are unnatural. They're not supposed to happen.
How do you see the trend if you're not, like, now it's, can you unpack that statement a bit? Don't
Yeah,
see
sure.
the trend.
Always remember that it is the large time frames that dictate the trend. So this is out on the weekly chart. We can see that there is a significant trend that has been in play since October 2011.
Whoa.
Right? So this is the main trend. And then inside that, we have what's known as a channel. So there's a little bit of a trend in here as well. And we can see that, yeah, right there. So that is probably going to have the majority of the support for this trend. When we see bankers candles like these aren't to be considered as part of the trend. So they are anomalies that occur that you just take into consideration, but that recognizing that these bankers candles are usually in the opposite direction of the trend. Because they're trying to suppress it. They're trying to suppress the inflation. Into tech stocks, Tesla had a drop when the earnings report came out. It was a surprise, 38% less than what was anticipated. And so that dropped the stock prices there on Thursday the 23rd. Since that time, dropped 12%, now currently only 2% lower. Palantir still following that outer trend line. Oh, no, we had that. That's right. It jumped up. Earnings came in 18% better than what they anticipated. Surprised them by $123 million. So that jumped up on last Monday because they are the curators, I would call them, or maybe that's not the best word. What would be a good word for them? They are, yeah, I would say curators of the precious metals known as data. Keeping track of everything. Oracle, it's basically staying at these levels here from 142. It dipped down to 116, but came right back up again. Probably going to find support off of the old all-time high. That was from, oh no, that's not the, why is it labeled all-time high? I did not label this one correctly. Let's go with support. So just above the $140 mark right now. NVIDIA took a jump, created a new high, crawling backwards to the all-time high. Google, we have an expansion here occurring. You can see that this trend, oops. We can see that this trend is opening call that, normally speaking, we see the wedges coming down this way in time. This one is opening. And that just means that well, it doesn't really mean much. It just means that it goes up, it's volatile at the moment. Amazon, just tucking in underneath the all-time highs, $287. Let's go look at our favorite, I say favorite, it's not our favorite, but it's my favorite meme coin to analyze. But technically, we're still in consolidation from before when Bitcoin was the only player in town. Bitcoin prices not reflecting much of a change lately. The market's been moving sideways basically since we broke out of that trend line. Ethereum also sideways market at the moment, hovering around 1864. Total market capitalization of all the cryptos except Bitcoin and Ethereum. So this is everything but. Also on a downward trend at the moment, however, holding its own. Staying sideways basically since June. Some fluctuation, but since June of 2026, it has maintained around $655 billion market capitalization. ADA, the token behind the nonprofit organization known as Cardano, actually created a new high, beating out the previous high on July 4th. On August 6th, reached 21 cents US, pulled back a little bit here, now down to 18.5. In the big scheme of things, it's got a ways to go before we can call this a bull trend. Yeah, a ways to go. We need to see it get above this 28-cent mark. Once I see it get up above that 28-cent mark and we notice that this support line here, yeah, it's right about there, that support line at 27.8 cents, that will be where I'll say, okay, we're ready to go on now, folks. Up until that time,
Meaning,
I think that we'll be in the throes of alt season.
Okay, and so you want to have gotten into it before then.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, at the very latest, if you wanted to be technical on the long time frame, this is the weekly now. That 27 is a pretty significant location because if I zoom in a little bit here, you'll see just how much of a pivot point that area has been in the past. So to get up above that and then test it, that's the other thing, is that there's this idea of, okay, the price went up, but did it come back and test? When we see it come back and test that zone, that's when, and we see it rising from there, that's when we can confirm, okay, now we're headed upwards. Technically, this is the weekly chart. We are still in a downward trend. Midnight also hovering at the 1.75 cents mark. XRP at $1 at the moment, also in a downward trend. If we take a look at the last time it was this low was June 2025. Likely to continue dropping I expect it to find some support around 92 cents. BitTensor, sideways market here at the moment. That volatility that we saw in March was probably just from that, that nice big announcement where institutions would have got excited because NVIDIA and BitTensor partnered up. Fetch sitting down at an old support line back from October 2025. Polygon, sideways market here since June. Same thing with Desync. Couple of spikes of volatility here. Clearpool, this is in the realm of real world assets or decentralized physical infrastructure. This will be largely moved by people who are processing compute locally on their home devices. Superverse in the video gaming industry, that is down almost the all-time lows, I think, if I remember correctly. Yeah, we're almost at all-time lows. 8.7 cents. We won't see gaming. I don't think we'll see gaming rise up until later in the year. And still, I don't think it'll be the primary driver of this next phase of the bubble. SPX basically sideways since all the way from February. Some volatility, but really not moving much more than the 3 to 4 cents. There we go. We got through the chart today. Any questions, comments, queries? Any assets you want me to go check out?
I'm thinking. Yesterday I was reading about bars, silver bars. You know, as a beginner, I just went for rounds and a few. I think way back I got a little bit of junk. These are all from the same person, so I'm not versed in. But I was looking at, these different ways that you can. I was looking at getting smaller amounts in between, like to do more of the dollar cost averaging thing.
Yeah.
On a small scale. Because I don't want to have my friend leave his baby and drive an hour and a half to, sell me a round. Right?
Yeah.
So I think so that I had gone with that because that was the most recognizable to me. But yesterday I was reading about, this is probably really just basic stuff, but how bars are actually cheaper they've got less premium on them. Is that right?
They can. Yeah, they can, because you're getting a larger amount in the one unit. So they can have a lower premium, yeah.
Is it also, and so I was just learning more about the premium stuff. I was following up on what you had told me about how the premiums change, because I think I had just assumed that that was sort of a set thing. And so
Right.
understanding that they change with volume, they change with scarcity, they change, I don't know why else they would change, but oh, and that they go in these longer cycles. Like it's not like if it's been scarce, then the premium will stay up for months. I mean,
Yep.
it will slowly go back down. So I was just doing some self-education, so I'm not just coming here and asking all my questions here, but of course it raises more questions. So what are the reasons to get bars and reasons not to get bars?
The biggest thing to be mindful of is your exit strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Bars, they are going to end up being very valuable. In fact, if you have a 5 ounce bar, chances are you're going to be able to get a large item for that. But you got to know what you're going to get with that bar now so that you have a plan for it. Now, if you want to hold it for longer term, then yeah, get as many bars as you can. If you're not going to care about what the price does, and you're not saying, oh, well, I need to sell this at $200 an ounce, then keep it, go focus on bars for sure. Because that is the, I would say, for a long-term strategy, if you're looking for multiple decades of a strategy where that just becomes a storehouse for equity, bars are the way to go. I prefer rounds because I'm a little bit more of an aggressive of an investing style. So with rounds, I know that when the prices are high, someone will still be able to afford to take it off my hands.
Mm-hmm. So it gives
I,
you more liquidity
correct.
with more people.
That's right.
Whereas with a bar, you'd be dealing with people that are more versed in silver or,
And
yeah.
they will also they if someone's going to be buying a bar for me, they're going to know the value of the bar and they're going to know that it's going to go down in value and they're going to be looking to negotiate as close to spot as they possibly can, if not refuse to buy unless it's at spot price.
Mm.
That's why it's like if I've got bars, I'm going to be planning to get something with that bar at that time.
Oh, at that.
It's like let's say for instance you want to something that usually takes a year to save up for, right? I don't know what that would be. Maybe you need to do some remodeling in your house or something like that. If you got a good 5 to 10 ounce bar, you can usually get a carpenter to get started on that job, right? You're trading that equity for something else. Maybe you need to do some repairs on your car.
Do you mean to actually that you trade that bar with the carpenter, or that you turn that bar into fiat and pay the carpenter?
Depending on the carpenter.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So either way, it's more just the amount of value, but it's more of a short term, like, I don't know. These are nuances you just don't learn without talking to somebody who's been doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you
Not.
don't keep, I mean, because when you say for decades, it's like, well, I'm 65. I don't know. You know,
Yeah.
my hope is to have, or my goal or whatever is to be here a while, but it's a crazy world.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it's a crazy world for all of us, no matter what age. But yeah, I tend to, there's been some investment things that people have advertised, and it's like it's a, was it teak wood or something, and it's like in 25 years, blah blah blah, and it's like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to invest.
Yeah. I would.
I mean, I didn't have the finances anyway, but just trying to do the thought experiment.
Yep.
It's just like, yeah, that's just not real attractive. Maybe it's attractive for people that have, you know, a number of kids and those kids are having grandkids, but like that's not my situation. So I'm not I'm not at a legacy status in this game. How to pass on our massive wealth to our
Yeah.
that's just not the game that we're in. It's more about how to navigate the years that we're here. And then of course make a plan to pass that on, but it's first of all we got to get through it.
Right. Yeah.
And then we got to leave.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have no bars, or do you do like a percentage in bars, or do you just stick to rounds?
I would stick to rounds for your situation unless there's something that you're saving up for.
And
If you're saving up for something, get 1 or 2 bars. And then in that situation, I would sell those bars to your dealer.
Okay.
Because there, with dealers especially, you know that you can move it. It's really about exit strategy. And I don't really suggest, I mean, again, unless people are wanting to make this a very long-term equity hold, in which case, yep, get some bars because your premiums are going to be lower and you're not having to carry as many pieces around.
It's the same weight though, right? Like
Yep.
it's just less, it's maybe more like there's 1 ounce bars. You're talking about 5 and 10 ounce, but there's 1 ounce bars.
Oh, yeah, I see. Okay, yeah. Well, if you get into 1 ounce bars, again, you're probably not going to get the local farmer to accept that nearly as easily as rounds. So it's again exit strategy. What are you wanting to do with this?
Mm-hmm.
That determines what you should be getting. I suggest that if people are looking for something that is going to help them get through hyperinflation, rounds are going to be the easiest thing for them to sell,
Okay.
or the easiest thing for them to use to trade. Bars, they will work as well. The weight is the same, the function of the metal is the same, the utility is the same. But bars have a different impression. It's like a psychological thing.
Mm-hmm.
When it's a coin, people have that knowledge that that's used for currency. Bars, people typically see that as a storehouse.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I thought I was on camera all the time.
For bars, what I would do is I would just make sure you got a good relationship with the dealer because they don't look at it the same way as the general public. So exiting out of bars is good for when you've got someone that is local and you know them and you know that they're going to be in business.
So the other reason would not to get bars is it sounds like to me is like in the kind of anything can happen at this point scenarios that it seems like we're in on multiple fronts. You just don't know what's coming, and so having stuff that's the easiest to translate, to trade, to move,
Yep.
probably a better.
You can get so granular with this, so it gets pretty crazy. It's like you can get rounds, but then you don't even know. Like 2 years from now, 3 years from now, there could be a dealer. Look at what happened with Audrey Lynn last year. Her Perth, which is an Australian mint, renowned Australian mint. There was a period of time where China, out of China, I'm not sure that it's the country China, but out of China came a counterfeit Perth bars. And Perth bars, you better test them because there's a lot of counterfeit gold bars out there.
Oh, it's gold?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the same thing can happen with silver, where it's just like all of a sudden, you say you got 200 ounces and it's all Sunshine Mint. Well, that's all fine and dandy as long as you know that everyone's going to accept Sunshine Mint when the time comes, when shit hits the fan, you know? And if not, do you have a way to test it independently? Because they're going to want to see an independent test if there's been a problem. That's why, if you can get kind of lost in some of these details. That's why some people say, if you're going to get rounds, get 5 or 6 different mints, so that you know that if you're offering someone and they say, "Oh, I don't like Sunshine, I want the Canadian maples," you've got some Canadian maples.
What about these? I was noticing that they had these like random, like we pick what it is, and then they were lower because you're not getting specific one, lower premium, I think, or lower, yeah, probably lower premium. So
Yeah.
it was just random, and there was all these reviews of like, these are great, I'm so surprised, these were awesome.
Yeah. Well, when it comes to those are called assorted. Assorted rounds. Yeah, those are great. I gravitate towards that
Okay.
because I want an assortment. I
Yeah.
don't want to be locked down to one mint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So people that are like all going for the maples or whatever, it's like they've got a kind of a collector reason for doing that. Or it's more that mindset. Oh, I want to get all the maples, or I want to get all the. Okay. What about what's your perspective on goldbacks?
Ah, the little currency.
Look at me coming with the questions.
Those are good. It's a good question. Typically, you're looking at 3 to 4 times the spot price. The premiums are insane. I
Okay.
never recommend anybody ever use them.
Okay.
I have yet to see these goldbacks be reflective of their value. I can remember there was this market. This was actually long before the lodgepole community started up Audrey Lynn. This was back when they were still meeting in Edmonton at the market there, where they were using goldbacks as a in-market currency, and it was just it's a disaster. It's not prudent at all to go with that system because you're paying $10 for one note, but there's only about $3 or $4 worth of gold in the note.
Well,
Right?
the
It's
person that was promoting it, who's all gung ho about it.
Oh yeah, no, the people love to get gung ho about something that has 3 to 4 times premiums. Of course.
Well, what
That's
they
like,
are gung ho about is using it like in the markets and using it in your local. So they're looking for things that can be like, oh look, they'll take this, and so they're not really saying, hey, you're getting it for the value of the. So, but that's really good to hear from you because it's like, well, then because I'm like, well, why haven't I looked at that? And it's like, oh, well, it's not going to serve what I.
no, and I mean, you might as well just use a currency, right? Because it's inflated in price. you know?
Good point. Yeah, there's people that are really they're such a goal right now is to establish alternative currencies, and I get it,
Yeah,
but
yeah. We
but I
we
don't get
handled
it enough that I want to.
before next gen merchants even became a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Audrey Lynn and Diane traded without having to touch the fiat currency. I think what it is that people think that the currency is needed in order for us to have an alternative economic system. And I think that's the mind virus that people gravitate towards. And then they're like, oh, we got to use this thing because it's gold backed. No, it's called a gold back. That doesn't mean it's backed by gold. Right? It's backed by a belief, no different than any other fiat, right? However, when Audrey Lynn and Diane, Debbie, I can't remember, when they agreed and they passed their equity, right? That's what these things are. The things that go on people's tables that they have available for sale, that's called equity. That's what you're trading. You're trading equity, not currencies, equity. The means of exchange that you use to transfer equity back and forth with each other is the only thing that we need to count as currency. It's the moment that the contract is where the consent to contract is given. That's the moment that you're creating money. That's the only money there is. It's the contracted agreement of the exchange for the equity. That is the creation of money. And people do like to gravitate towards things that have precious metals. They like to gravitate towards polymer notes that have precious metals in it because there's that belief that it's worth something. And it is. If you can get a whole community to agree that that's what you're going to use as an in-game currency for your market, it works.
And
But
that's
it's
what
not
this person's.
it's a solution. It's not
Yeah.
the solution.
Yeah.
The solution is knowing what a contract is.
Mm-hmm.
The solution is knowing what consent is. The solution is knowing what creates money. Once you have that, then you can honestly, you can take any route you want. There's no wrong answer at that point. What the wrong answer is saying our currency is the best. That's where the problems lie.
So the search for that currency that people will use is the search for tapping into that belief system or that convenience. Or I mean, I understand the convenience of currency, right? Like, oh, I can go get a cup of, I don't drink coffee, but if I can go get a cup of coffee and I don't have to have a half-hour discussion about, well, would you take an egg for that? Would you take a scarf for that? Right? So it's handy. It's like, oh, it's $3.
Yeah.
Probably more than $3 now. But it is just tapping into that, like this idea that we have to have this, we all have to have the same thing and we all have to kind of agree upon its value. And maybe I'll even stop using or replace more often the word money with equity so that I remember I'm talking about something different.
It's a good practice. It's a good practice. Reference it as equity because another thing is that the governments can't tax equity. Right? They can tax currency.
They do try and tax barter though.
Yeah. But then you're having to use a ledger that they would use, right? That's the only way they can track it. They can't track, like if you're shaking hands across a table and you're passing one form of equity over for another, like tea and pierogies, they can't track that because there's no ledger for that. That's again the contract that occurs between two people who look at each other in the eye and have a relationship with each other. That's something like it's like saying, oh, I've got some time. Do you want to meet up for coffee? And then the other person says, yeah, I've got some time. Let's meet up for coffee. Oh, do you want to go 10 o'clock? Yeah, that sounds good. And then you meet up and no, wait, there's a government official there telling you that you have to pay them in order for that time to be spent with each other. That's what they're trying to do with tax. Yeah, they want to tax barter because that's the level of authority that they want to have over people. But again, consent makes the law. So if people consent to a government system that does that or that encroaches upon that, that is not the government's fault.
So my impression of what the government is currently doing is it says, oh, and if you barter, that's taxable too. and you report it in terms of, so they're getting people to report it in terms of the, like, oh, I had this plumber come and do a $400 job and I gave him a horse. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's dependent on you reporting it in the currency, right? Like it's like that's the value. So it's just a way to tell people that you have to do this, but they don't really have a way to check it.
Well, yeah, they don't have the authority. The only thing that they can exercise is power, right? Because they have guns. So they require the initiation of force to enforce the taxation of something that's bartered. It's kind of like my dad. He worked in forestry, and as a part of his work, he was given a company vehicle because he had to go out into the bush, and that's a special truck you got to have to be able to serve as a forester. And so the corporation that he worked for provided him with a company truck. He couldn't use it for personal use, but he was permitted to use it when it was time to go out and go to a cut block 200 kilometers up north or whatever to go and plot out the harvest. But the government taxed his personal income because that's a benefit. That's a company benefit. So because it's a benefit, that has to count towards, okay, so what would your car payment be? Oh, well, then that's taxable income. How much fuel did you put into that? Oh, that's taxable income, right? And that's the level of governance. And my dad went through with it because, I mean, he was the best of bootlickers. So, for him, doing that was important because that honored his father's service in the military, right? So he complied. But the fact of the matter is, none of that was required. The only reason people go ahead with it is because they have a fear that the almighty God, government, is going to smite them if they don't. That's the only reason anybody goes along with these stupid rules, is because they have the power. They don't have the authority. Zero. They don't have the authority to govern over someone's barter. That's like saying they have the authority to stop you from meeting for coffee with someone. Oh, no, you're not allowed to have a relationship with that person. Why? Because we said so. And if you do, we're going to kill you. We're going to take your life force energy. Because that's what taxation is, by the way. Taxation is the robbery of life force energy. People don't get that.
So that goes back to your video, not yours, but the video you showed me about the dot.
Yep.
Wait, why do we have to pay you all this money? Because you must. We said so.
Well, it's no different than the mafia. You're going to pay us so that we don't beat you up. We're protecting you from our own enforcers. It's just the most ridiculous thing. The founding fathers would be rolling in their graves for what America has done to itself. And it is. Like, people say, oh no, we were infiltrated, we were manipulated, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, you have the self-responsibility to overthrow your government, okay? It's not like a right to do it. You have the responsibility to overthrow a government that works against your end, works against your purpose. That's your job. If the government is abusing you, there's a process that the people have to bring remedy to that. And the fear is that, oh, well, then they're going to send the military. Yeah, and then what? It's kind of like there's a meme that I shared on Next Gen Merchants. If you're not on a government watch list by now, you're not on our side, right? Yeah, you're going to be vilified. You're going to be demonized. There's going to be propaganda that talks about how evil the black market is. You're going to have people ask ridiculous questions on conference calls like, well, how can you sleep at night for using roads that you don't pay for? Like it's just going to be, you're going to have that. Jesus even said that that's what's going to happen when you behave like this. When you start recognizing the kingdom within, you will be ridiculed. You will be persecuted. And blessed are you for being that, for standing your ground, for knowing your truth. Where am I going with that? People deserve the government they tolerate. It is not the government's fault for enacting on tyranny. Audrey Lynn.
People, this all reminds me of the census.
Yeah.
No authority to be asking those questions unless I consented, and we did not.
Yeah.
Show me the law.
That's right.
It all goes back to who are you? What's your identity?
So how do you factor in that people don't know? That the education system is further and further, they're not teaching the Constitution. They're not teaching. So people literally don't even know.
How do you catch a fish when the fish aren't biting?
I'm trying to connect that to the...
Cast more lines.
You get a net.
Yeah. I was saying this.
What do you mean cast more lines?
Cast more lines. You gotta increase your efforts, right? These people are like fish. They are swimming in a current sea, and they don't know any better. It's like to the fish, water is oxygen. It's everything. It is its world. You take it out of that water, and it suffocates. Could you figure that one out? That's what it's like. We are the fishers of men. We are the people going into the system and fishing people out. How do you fish for people when they are not biting? You've just got to put out more lines. You got to put out a net. And a couple weeks ago, we were on our way to that market. And I was thinking, the best way for us to do this, really, is to get people to ask questions. That's why I was talking about market analysis, really just becoming an open forum. Yeah, I'll bring up the charts. Yeah, we'll talk about precious metals, tech, and the economy and all that stuff. But when it comes right down to it, that's not going to answer people's questions. And the idea that I have is that we just, when people are talking about the problems of their lives, like when we go to these markets and we're at these freedom events and whatever else, people are asking quality questions, but they're asking questions from a mindset that's irrelevant. And so how do you deal with that? Well, and I'm of the mind that we'll just say something like, oh yeah, we dealt with that in Next Gen Merchants last year. Oh, why don't you come to the daily Q&A and come and ask the question to the group? Because all of us here, we are 100% lawfully non-compliant to the bullshit that the rest of the world bitches about. And we've got answers. We don't all have everything because not everybody's working together. What's happened, especially within the freedom industrial complex, is this division. Oh, my way's the better way. Oh, if you're not voting left, then you must be right? Like it's like this idea of duality. Like if you're not for us, you're against us. And it's like, no, 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 no. I am for you. But what we're saying here at Next Gen Merchants is that we can build what we want. We don't have to vote what we want. In fact, we recognize that there is no amount of voting that can overthrow tyranny. That's why it's called tyranny. You can't vote your way out of it. Like if you could vote your way out of it, we wouldn't be having the discussion. Right? The only people, when you have a government such as you do, with the capacity of exercising power the way that it does, there is not a good person who puts their name on the ballot. Because good people don't seek positions that have the capacity of power. Period. So there is no political solution. The solution is privatize your equity and bring governance to your treasuries of your own communities. Period. And this isn't my opinion. This is something that has been written for thousands of years across dozens of resets, where the people have to evict the criminals, send them away, ideally slay them, truly. And that sounds harsh, but it's not. When you consider the evils, like look at what's going on right now with this whole. I'm actually kind of grateful that Fauci did get questioned by Congress, because more people are starting to talk about the fact that this vaccine wasn't a vaccine at all. It was a bioweapon. And that constitutes capital punishment. And if you don't think so, then you're caught up in the, I would say, the Christian Reich mind virus of forgive your enemies. No, no, no. We forgive our enemies, sure, but only after they've been slain. And that's the ideal. A lot of people don't have, a force willing to take that action, so it's difficult to enforce it, right? But if you have a good military, you have every capacity and right to slay your enemy. That's why there's this idea, thou shalt not kill, and that is not what the original translation said at all. The original translation said, thou shalt not murder. There's a big difference between killing and murdering. And you have a responsibility as a people. Doesn't mean that, everybody has to take up arms. But you have a responsibility as a people to direct your military to slay your enemies. Our enemy has made it very clear, without any ambiguity, that we are their sworn enemy. Their mission and their directive from their God is to destroy us. That's their thing. That's what they want to do. That's what they live to do. Their entire culture is based on that ideology. That's not something that you tolerate on Gaia. And again, I wish I was expressing an opinion, because then, people can argue with me and have a valid reason to do so. And then it would be a lot more fun. It's not fun to see people resist that which has been established as the path for thousands of years. I ranted a little bit there.
When Jacqueline draws that same distinction between nature, like nature kills.
Yep.
I don't remember what word she uses, but it's that same idea of it doesn't murder, it doesn't have intent, it doesn't come after you bad, you know,
Yeah.
you bad bear. I'm
Yeah.
gonna, it's just the road runs out for that particular.
Yep. Yeah, just walk the sidewalk long enough and you'll see a worm that escaped the earth because it's raining, right? And it's going to drown. So it escapes the earth and goes out on the sidewalk where it's safe. And a robin comes and just murders that bitch. That's nature.
That's nature. That's killing.
Yes.
It doesn't go, ha, I'm going to, it's just like, oh, lunch.
Yeah, exactly. I was just being playful with the language because that's you're right. Nature is volatile.
But it doesn't have intent. It doesn't have punishment. It doesn't have all that brain baggage with it. It's just like cleaning out.
Yeah. It's just doing its thing. It's just doing its thing.
This row of houses on the cliff, actually, we do this thing called erosion. I don't know if you noticed, but
yeah,
like
this wasn't. Yeah, and Earth doesn't consider the human life that would be at risk for eroding. No, it's just gonna do its thing because it's laws of nature at work.
Right.
The killing of our enemies is nature. It's following the laws of nature. If you've got a group of if you have a group of orangutans and another group of orangutans come and kill the young of the other of the other group, nature takes over and they just war and they kill each other because that's what nature does. It's a very, very normal, natural thing. And we have the responsibility to do that. What are we going to do? Allow our adversary to have the capacity to regain their strength and come back after our great-grandchildren? Great-great-grandchildren? Is that what we want to be known as? The people that let our enemy get away? And again, it goes back to the scope of this, like the horror that has been inflicted is so great that people don't have it within their purview because they typically aren't that mean to each other. They don't think of being that evil. So when the evil is in their faces, they're like, that can't be. There's no way people would be that mean to each other. Oh, no, I'm telling you the truth. Our adversary hates us that much. Look at Cain and Abel, right? There is actually pride in our adversary's culture. They are proud of the fact that they are descendants of Cain, who, when he saw that his brother had favor with God, he became jealous and killed him, murdered his brother, his own brother. Why? Because he didn't like the fact that God had favor with him. Like we are not playing out something different here. That is the history that just keeps recurring like a merry-go-round. And the problem that we have is that we have forgiveness because they keep coming back to do it again and again and again and again because it's their job. Their God dictated to them that this is how they ought to treat us. That is not something that we as humanity ought to tolerate or even wish upon our neighbor. Like, that's the other thing. It's like, oh, just go live over there instead of here. No. You're supposed to remove them from the face of the planet. That's That's the responsibility. That's the responsible thing. Because if we don't, our adversary will do it to us. It's like death by 1,000 cuts. They will encroach and encroach and encroach.
Do you get emails from Jason Christoff, I think it is?
I don't think
He's
so.
Canadian, or he was, or whatever. He's from there. He put out an article that was showing something that was written up by a journalist a long time ago. And it was exposing this Congress that happened in, I don't remember if it was Alberta or Toronto, in 1967 and then like in 1981. And it was outlining the plans, the various, the 1,000 cuts.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't even, it was so perfunctory. It was long, so I didn't finish it. I thought of sending it to you. But I thought, you probably already know about this.
I might have heard it from another source. I don't recall the name.
I'll try and find it and forward it to you.
I know last year Wayne Peters. Was that last year? Earlier this year? No, that was last year. Like April last year, Wayne had a series, 2 or 3 broadcasts where he actually had, members of CSIS, which is the Canadian version of the CIA. Members who quit because they couldn't believe what was going on, and they started speaking out against it. And in that broadcast, they went through all of the receipts showing that Canada has been on this path for 50 years. That's been that long since they were infiltrated and manipulated to where we are today. And it's that's probably one of the big underlying reasons why I just gravitate towards bitterness so fast. It's because it's like this form of warfare that we currently experience was something that I saw coming in 2014. I saw it playing out in slow motion, and to be reviled by your own neighbors, by your own family, for not for seeing it, for calling it out. The bitterness is easy for me to jump into because it's like, oh, yeah, you know what? Actually, it's like when down in Calgary, the school system, this last Ramadan, the school system made it where if you were Canadian, if you were, national white, you couldn't bring lunch. Why? Because it was Ramadan and the Muslims would get offended if you ate in front of them. And, people were all up in arms. Oh, this can't happen, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what do you mean this can't happen? What do you mean this can't happen? I'm sorry. Where were you when we were identifying the migrant crisis in 2014-15? Where were you? Oh, right. You were saying to me that I was a conspiracy theorist. When I wasn't expressing a conspiracy theory, I was directly quoting the directive of our government to replace the population with a new voter base, and that they were going to do it through migration. So now, at this point, I want to see the social media videos. I want to see the social media videos of white people, white kids, going hungry in schools for two reasons. Number one, that way we can go after all of the parents for negligence because they are responsible for sending their kids to a school where they go hungry. That's reason number one. The second reason is because I'm just so sick and tired of hearing about these problems that nobody wanted to do anything to fix when it was a crisis. What we're witnessing today is the inevitable result of doing absolutely less than nothing about the crisis. You were demonizing the people who were heralding the crisis years ago. So yes, now I want to see this play out. I want to watch the Islamists, the extremists. I want to see them shooting white people in the streets now. Not because I think it's a good thing, but because it seems like the only other possible way to get Canadians to do something other than what they've been doing is to take away an NHL team or something like that. Like, how do we get you to uprise? I don't know. But maybe if the Islamists murder you in the streets, maybe then you'll pay attention to what needs to be done. I don't know. It's not like anything that we do helps.
Only during playoffs. If they do it during playoffs, then it's a problem.
Right. Yeah. You have to wait now until next year.
The Oilers are in the playoffs.
Right. Make sure the Oilers are in the playoffs and then take away an NHL team. Then you might get people saying we got to do something about this country. I have a great love for humanity, but I don't have much hope. I believe that Trump is going to be leading the way into the Christian Reich. Not that he's necessarily going to be the leader of it, but that the people are going to experience so much abundance they will forget the crimes that were committed. They will be like, oh, it's over now. Look, why am I what am I looking at? Oh, well, just look at how much better the economy is now. I believe that that's what's going to occur. And we know this because of books like this. We got books like this, and this isn't the only one. We have books like this that tell us specifically how it is that societies fall. And it's when the offer for comfort is given. They offer comfort and ease, and we'll take care of this for you, and we'll make sure that you don't have to worry. And they try to, and that's how it happens. People go, oh, that's wonderful. This almighty force known as the government is going to fix all our problems. And then that way we can have an easier time in our pursuit of happiness. That's great. Thank you so much, government. You're the best. It's not my opinion. Again, I'm just paraphrasing history. And my concern is that the people are, yet again, careening for a cliff. And I also see at the same time there is a split. We are seeing an alternate reality form, especially with groups like this. You know, we go out and we meet up with Dan there in Airdrie. He's got a good thing going on. These little independent, localized movements looking to conduct their trade privately. That's what's going to, like, if anything, that's what's going to save the world, is because now we actually have true abundance because we're building high trust relationships within communities. That is what builds a nation, not the GDP, not a good foreign policy. No, what builds a nation is high trust relationships within communities. Small communities. 150. It's about as big as you ever want to get. And if your community lacks something, the good news is because everybody is out there building small communities, there's going to be a community that doesn't lack it. And you can trade with each other, just like everybody else in a peaceful world.
So when you say a nation, you mean a nation of communities, small communities?
Yeah.
Or do you mean each small community is a nation?
Each small community can be a nation. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. I mean, a nation references the people. Countries reference corporations.
Very strange path ahead. I mean, even in small towns, most of them are more than 150 people. So you're talking about kind of like we're spread out on different, well, I was going to say different continents, but we're not on different continents. But we're a community. And then there's others that would be local, but like, in the Twin Cities where there's as many people as there are, that's a lot of different communities of 150 people.
Yes, indeed.
And then there's cross-pollination because you don't just pick one because you're connected with this one because you're into this thing, and then you're connected with that one. I don't know. I'm just
Yeah, that's what's
kind of
for the
babbling.
cities. The hard part about the cities is because, it's like in the city, you're kind of sheltered from the elements. It's like you have less people who are growing up in an environment where they do chores on a farm.
Yeah.
And so
Or
there's that,
any chores at all.
yeah, yeah. And so there you have that drawback to being surrounded by zombies. And I think that what we're seeing is a because yeah, well, this goes back a bit again back into the social engineering that is occurring. We have our adversary who has two primary religious groups under their deception: Christians and Muslims. Those two are both of them been propagandized and doctrinated into their own belief systems, specifically to hate each other. And so in the cities, because of the population displacement that's occurred, the voter-based displacement that's occurred, now you are going to see the governments end up, because it's democracy, right? Will of the people, blah, blah, blah. So you get a majority together and they say this is who our leader should be. Then those who are in the minority, who didn't get the leaders that they wanted, now they are subject to the terms and conditions brought forward by the majority. And so when you're in cities, it's especially difficult for you to build community in a one-on-one basis, simply because you got to go a long ways to find someone like-minded. If you can get out of the cities and more into a rural community, you have a higher likelihood of bumping up against people who share similar values. And it's from there, honestly, you need to starve the cities. Stop selling your wares to the marketplace and start serving your community. That's how you build a high trust nation. You have to stop catering to the enemy's agendas.
Yeah, that's interesting because in a way, farmers and stuff are actually dependent on the cities as well because they're selling. I mean, I'm thinking of even the people like doing raw milk or whatever. they're out, they drive it a long ways, they bring it to the city. What they're finding is, they're trying to build their communities around them, but the people around them aren't as keyed into like the value of raw milk and the value, so it's the people, a small proportion of people in the cities that are going, oh yeah, I don't want to get milk at Whole Foods. I want to get it from a cow.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're doing all this gas mileage, driving for hours and hours to drive to different locations to tap into the smaller subsets of these different, not just the cities, but other communities as well. But it's like these smaller subsets that aren't, whereas they have people around them, but they're not focused on health in the same way, or they're not. Yeah. That's what I've heard anyway from the guy that does a lot of the delivery here,
Mm-hmm.
which I have not managed to hook up with yet. I don't know. Another thought-provoking market analysis.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Most welcome.
I am provoked. Having been raised a complete pacifist, talking about my early conditioning.
Well, and you know what? The pacifism, especially when it comes to war, I support not going to war for our adversary.
Right.
And that the pacifism that you have adopted, that you've taken on, is in alignment with that, because the US military hasn't been used for national defense for decades. Arguably, since before World War I. And so I want you to feel comfortable in your choice to be a pacifist in that regard.
Well, it's not I'm just saying I was raised that way.
Yeah, good.
I worked through a lot of it after being assaulted, although it probably took 15 years, but 10 or 15 years. I don't remember when I started going, oh, yes, maybe in the infinite spark or I am level, we are all equal. But if I'm alive and this person isn't, I'm not going to go around, raping, robbing, and killing. So I may not be more valuable as a innate being, but in terms of what I bring to my communities and to other people. So yeah, it took me a long time, but I was like, because it was like, oh, I wouldn't want to kill somebody. It's like, so let them kill you.
And that's why it's so important that, especially Americans, Canadians as well, but that Americans go back to their roots and re-invoke the Republic. Because now you can set up your own local militias like you're supposed to, and you're not having to rely on a military, which, quite frankly, has been so compromised and weaponized against the people that it's a responsibility that every state has to build their own local militias. And that those who are gifted in that are the ones who take up those roles, right? Like I'm not equipped for that. I was not trained in that. But from the perspective that I am trained, it is imperative that we begin self-governing even our armed forces, because our governments will use them against us. Look at what's going on in I don't know about what it's like down in the States, but at the big rodeo here, we have the the Calgary Stampede. It's a worldwide tournament for the sports, for like bull riding, and it's a huge rodeo. People come from far and wide to attend. And usually there's the premier for the province comes and does a pancake breakfast, and you can sit there and joke with them across the grill and all that stuff. It's a great publicity moment. Well, at this Calgary Stampede that just ended a couple weeks ago, there was a booth for the Canadian military. And while they were there, they were recruiting. They were there to, provide information for people who would be interested in joining the military. And they reported 0 white applicants. Nobody other than foreigners, or what they call new Canadians, showed interest. The last, and that's just one story.
What could go wrong?
Yeah, what could go wrong? That's just one story, though. This year, in the spring, the police academy every year in Regina releases out the new force of Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Everybody goes to school there. And then from there, they get dispatched to the communities in which they serve as police officers. The last class couldn't finish their training. Why? Because of the different races of the people who were training, the trainees. They couldn't stop fighting each other.
Whoops.
So the law enforcement and the military in Canada are completely lost. There's nothing left to even bother salvaging at this point. Because and they're scraping the bottom of the barrel, taking in all the migrants because they got no one else to fill the positions. Vincent Gersey is a 25-year, I think, 25, maybe 35, can't remember. Long time, multiple decades of service in the police force. And he quit the year that COVID started because of all the bullshit. And he even says, there is no hope whatsoever for law enforcement in Canada. We, the people, must form our own. Because even our law enforcement has been weaponized against us.
Woohoo!
Well, that was a great 90 minutes. Thank you, everybody. Join us again on Thursday for more rants and anti-Semitism. And Audrey Lynn's going cheers.